Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be a little bit different from my normal tutorials. I'm just going to be doing a watercolor painting while we chat a little bit. And today I'm going to be talking about art fairs. So if you are an artist or just want to know what goes on behind the scenes at art fairs, I am just going to be talking about that. So we can continue the conversation in the comments below. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear from you and I will answer those as soon as I can. So if you're new to my channel, my name is Emily Winslow and I love to paint with watercolor and also help others learn how to paint with watercolor. Let's go ahead and get started on this painting. So I do have an art fair that's coming up. It is called the Broad Ripple Art Fair here in Indianapolis. And I'm going to be painting a picture of a fountain from around our city that I took a photo of. So I think that's going to be a cute thing to bring to the art fair. I've been doing art fairs for about 3 years now. And I started off by doing a lot smaller fairs. I actually did more like what are called craft shows. So if you're new to getting into these, I would actually start off with those. They're a lot lower pressure. You don't have to have as much inventory, and the application process is usually you pay a fee and you're automatically in. So I am first going to just talk about why I do art fairs. They are a pretty big part of my art business. I do about 5 per year, which doesn't sound like a lot, but you have to keep in mind how much inventory you need to bring to these. And I usually bring about 60 to 70 pieces of art, which is a lot. But it's best to, have a full booth and be prepared. But the first few art fairs, I would say I only brought about maybe 40 to 50. I just didn't really know how many I wanted to bring. So art fairs are a great place to meet new customers. That's one of the main reasons I do them, is to grow my customer base. Yes, it's great to make money right on the day, but it's also great for making future sales. People will meet you at an art fair and then they may not buy a piece there, but they may come back to your website and decide that they really wanted a piece, or they decide to come back and commission a piece of art from you. So it's just great for making connections, because people love to meet an artist face to face to form that connection. That's a big reason why people buy art, is because they like that artist and they want to support them, and hopefully they also like the art too. But connection is a big part of selling art, I would say. So let's talk about the application process for art fairs. There is a site called Zapplication, and that is primarily what I use to apply for my art fairs. Those are where a lot of the big ones are across all states. And you can just see when their applications are open, what status they are in, if you've submitted an application and are waiting for it to be approved. That's something that I think not a lot of people realize, is that you have to apply to these art fairs about 6 months in advance, I would say. It's something that I usually put on my calendar to remind me to apply to the art fairs that I really want to go to. I've definitely forgotten to apply sometimes, and then there's not really anything you can do about it. It's just important to remember to apply to those ones you want to attend. And there is usually an application fee of about $30 to $50. So sometimes sad if you don't get into the art fair, but still had to pay that. It happens. I have applied to so many art fairs that I have not gotten into, and that is totally fine. That is part of the process of trying. I call it a lot of trial and error. It's important to just keep trying for the ones that you want to go to. And sometimes you go to that art fair and discover, you know what, that one wasn't really worth my time. So you don't do it again, or maybe you try it a few times. But there are art fairs that I used to do that I no longer do, just because I realized they weren't really worth my time anymore. So it's important for you as an artist to just give it a try. Not everything is going to work out perfectly the first time, and that is okay. Don't let fear hold you back if you're afraid to do these art fairs. Yes, they are a lot of work, but I think they are so worth it when it comes to meeting customers. So it's May right now, and I know of 2 art fairs that I for sure got into and am doing, and then I have about 7 other applications in. So I applied to more art fairs than I expect to go to, just because there are some larger ones I applied to this year that I don't know if I'll get accepted, but it doesn't hurt to try, right? I'm just checking this application and waiting to hear back on a couple. So for the application itself, there are a few things that you do need. You have to have a booth shot normally, so just like a photo of how your booth is going to be set up with all of your art. So before I even started doing art fairs, I actually went to into my backyard and did like a mock setup just to get this photo. It was so much work just to hang all the art up and then take it down, but that's how I got my booth shot. And you got to start somewhere, right? So you need to have a booth shot, and then you also have to have usually 3 images of art that you want to submit. So there's usually a jury process, and they will vote on if they want you to be a part of the art fair. So after you submit your application, you can kind of see the dates of when they're going to send out acceptance emails and when they're going to, if they have a wait list or whatnot. But that's basically it for the application process. So let's chat a little bit about preparation. So, I'm always preparing by making new art. That is one of many things to prepare for. So other than making art, I usually start a lot of my preparation the week before the art fair. So there's things you need to remember, stuff like having shopping bags. Do you need to go buy those or restock the shopping bags that you have? One of the first art fairs I went to, I completely forgot to even bring shopping bags. I was like, oh my goodness, like that's something you'd think I would have thought of, but I forgot. And then there's the thing of how are you going to take payment? Do you have things in your website and you have a card reader? So for me, that is the case. I use Shopify, and I need to make sure I have all of the artwork that I'm bringing listed in Shopify. And then I use a card reader. So if somebody wants to purchase a piece, I will mark that sold in Shopify and take the payment. So for me, a lot of that preparation the week before is putting my inventory into my POS system, and then also just figuring out how much I'm listing everything for and making a price tag to go with each one. So lots of little things you maybe didn't think about doing before an art fair, but that's kind of what I spend a lot of my week before the art fair doing. And then of course, there's packing your artwork. So usually the day before setup. And if it's a 2-day art fair, like Saturday and Sunday, usually setup is done on Friday. So I'll typically pack my car on Thursday so that I'm ready for Friday to go set up my artwork. I do have my amazing husband who always comes with me to art fairs, so really thankful for that. I am going to be honest, I don't know if I'd be able to do these without him. And so if you are somebody who is working solo, I would probably find a friend to help you, or even, hire somebody. I just think it would be so hard to set up alone. It's doable, people do it. But to me, that would take me like twice as much time. So definitely recommend either hiring somebody or finding a friend to help you. Just being honest, I don't do it solo, and am really thankful for that. So thank you, Seth, for helping me. So like I said, Friday is usually setup day, and usually the art fair gives you a time that you're allowed to go set up. I would say setup usually takes me about 2 hours. And then if I didn't finish or there's anything I forgot, I can bring that the next day. That's definitely happened before where I just forgot my business card. So I made a note to just bring that on Saturday, and that works out too. So let's talk about my favorite part of these art fairs, which is the day of the art fair itself. The preparation is something that has to be done, but not my favorite part. So the day of the art fair, it's so important to be on your A game, be ready to be friendly to customers and welcome them into your booth. Something as I consider myself an introvert, and so this was always hard for me to walk up to people and be like, hi, I'm Emily, give them my little elevator pitch of who I am, what kind of art I do. But it's so important to make that connection. Like I was talking about earlier, when you you connect to people, they are more likely to buy your art. And so I had to just kind of work on that as an artist, to be open, be more friendly, welcome people into my booth when they show up, and just to thank them for even stopping by. There are some people who will go out of their way. They follow you on social media or just want to see your art in person. There's some people who will make the trip to the art fair just to see you, and it's really nice that they do that. That is probably my biggest tip, is to be friendly and be ready to talk about your artwork. Something else that I discovered last year that is really important is to stay hydrated. I had an episode of dehydration last summer and actually had to go get some IV fluid from the hospital. So I am determined to not let that happen again and to make sure I'm drinking water the whole time. In fact, I would get those little liquid IV packets that you can put into water. I started using those and it's much better for my hydration. So take the breaks that you need to go drink and eat or sit down, especially if it's a hot day. It was that one time I got dehydrated. So it's just so important to take care of yourself when you are doing these art fairs, because they can be taxing on your body and you want to make sure that you stay healthy first and foremost. Let's talk about the big question, which is maybe what you came to this video for, which is, are art fairs worth your time? Now, this is something that's going to be different for every artist, and you need to decide what works for you and your business. So for me, I've determined that yes, there are some art fairs that are definitely worth my time. I just had to take some time to discover which art fairs those were, because the reality is not every art fair is going to be worth your time. There are some that I used to do that I no longer do, and that's okay. So the ones that I have found that are usually worth my time are the ones with the booth fee that are at least $400 are usually going to be the ones that are worth it. I know it sounds like a lot of money to shop on an art fair, and I was so hesitant to do it at first. But on average for those fairs, I make between $5,000 to $7,000, those 1 or 2 day fairs. And you know what? There could be a dud one day where I pay that booth fee and it's rained out or too hot, no one shows up. You need to think about if you're willing to take the risk. So I'd love to hear from you guys in the comments below what art fairs you love to go to and tips that you've found when preparing for these art fairs, because sometimes there's only so much you can prepare for. You never know, how much you're going to sell. So another big tip when it comes to art fairs is to have a big price range. And what I mean by that is having some things priced at like $30, even $20, something really low that anybody can drop that money for. So I have reproductions of my artwork that go for $30. So I want to make sure that I have that, because not everyone's going to want to spend $500 or $1,000 on a painting. A lot of art collectors, to them, $500 is nothing. So you do want to have those big pieces that art collectors are looking for. You can appeal to multiple people with your art. More paintings that are at a lower price, so some smaller watercolors, but then I do make sure I bring a couple large pieces with me. And I may not sell any of those large pieces, but they are also eye catchers for your booth. So if you have a booth with a bunch of small little paintings, somebody might walk by and not really want to go in because they can't really see the art from far away. But if you have some bigger pieces that really catch people's eye, that helps a lot. And so my advice is to just, one, have that big price range just to appeal to more customers, but also to have larger pieces to catch eyes from a far distance. Another one of my favorite parts about art fairs is meeting other artists. I love to make connections with my peers and just go visit their booths. I have some art friends who I see at almost all of the fairs I go to, and I always look forward to going to visit their booth to see what they have on display for that day. And it's just so important to have those connections with other artists. Okay, so I'm going to be done with this painting. I wanted to keep it simple and loose. So here's what this painting looks like. And I did it in this little shape because I got this adorable frame from TJ Maxx. So if you didn't know, they have the cutest frames there. And I think that fountain painting looks so cute in it. And we're gonna bring it to my art fair this week. So if you're in Indianapolis, I will see you there. So again, I'd love to hear if you have any questions about art fairs, if you're new to them, or want to do more of them, and we can continue talking about them in the comments below. So let me know what other conversations you want to have, and I loved doing this paint and talk. So I hope you all have a great rest of your day wherever you are, and until we paint again next time.